Hello everybody, welcome back to Pronunciation with Emma. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Emma and today we're going to not focus on pronunciation, we're actually going to focus on some grammar. So besides posting weekly videos on pronunciation, I sometimes do live lessons about, of course, pronunciation, but also some grammar. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, guys, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and also click the bell notification icon as well, and you will receive notifications every time I go live or every time I post a new video, which is every Friday. So how is everyone doing today? I see some people in the comments. Hello. Do let me know where you're from as well, because I'm always really interested to know where people are from and where you're watching from. Let's jump straight into today's lesson. So today we're going to talk about past simple, present perfect, and the past perfect. If you have any questions during this live, or if you're watching the replay, then please just put your questions in the comments and I will try to answer them as I go through the lesson. I might have to pause after each point, but I will try and answer. So, past simple, let's start with this one. So, past simple is probably the easiest one, I would say, to use. For example, last night I watched a film. Now you can see on the timeline that we watched the film here in the past, okay? There's no connection to the present at all. We use this tense to talk about things that happened in the past, finished in the past, and have no connection to the present. We usually know when the action happened as well. So if we look at the example, we have last night, okay? Last night I watched a film. Last night is when the action happened. When we use past simple, we usually know when the action happened, okay? That's the first one. Now, what tends to confuse people is when we start using present perfect. Now, there are 4 different ways that we can use the present perfect in English. I'm also going to talk about how they use it in American English as well. And I'm also going to talk about the use of for and since. So, with the first way, we can say, have you seen John this morning? Have you seen John this morning? So you can see here on the timeline, I've kind of mapped out this box. This box here, it basically represents the morning, okay? That is the morning period. So from 12 a.m., that's midnight, until 12 p.m., that's noon. That's what that box is referring to. So we use this tense to talk about things that have happened in an unfinished period of time that also includes the present, okay? So in this example here, have you seen John this morning? It is still the morning, okay? Because look here, 12 p.m. is here. Here, we can imagine it's maybe 9 a.m., 10 a.m., okay? So the morning is still happening. It includes the present. And we can use phrases such as this morning, this week, this month, and this year when we use this tense, okay? When we use it for this reason. The next one, there we are. So the next one I want to talk about is basically how American English speakers use this tense. So if you watch a lot of American films or things like that, or follow American teachers, you might see them do something like this. So we would say in the UK, in British English, have you seen John this morning? That's the same as the example we looked at before, okay? But American speakers, you might hear them saying, did you see John this morning? Okay, and you see they're using the past simple. So in American English, they may use the past simple for this instead of the present perfect. However, in British English, it's considered incorrect grammar usage. All right? So it's not wrong. People will understand you, but if you look in the books, the typical grammar books, it will tell you that in British English, this is incorrect. However, some British native speakers may still use this as it's more of an influence from American English, okay? But we would, in British English, use present perfect. Have you seen John this morning? Because there is a relation to the present. Any questions so far? I don't think so. Someone's asked if they can watch this again. Yes, it will be recorded and it will be available forever. I also see that there are people watching from loads of different countries. So hello guys, welcome. The second way that we can use present perfect is like this. So I can say, I have lived in Bristol for 4 years. I have lived in Bristol for 4 years. So you can see on the timeline, I've got here 4 years ago. Here is the present. And this red line represents the 4-year period of time. So we can also use this tense to talk about the duration of an action that started in the past. So this started 4 years ago and continues up to and includes the present. Okay? I've lived in Bristol for 4 years. This means that I am still in Bristol. I continue to be in Bristol now. When we use present perfect for this reason, we often use it with for and since. Now, I anticipated that many people will probably be thinking, what's the difference between for and since? So here's a little explanation. So with for, we use it with a period of time. I've lived in Bristol for 4 years. This is a period of time, okay? I've lived in Bristol for 2 weeks. I've lived in Bristol for 2 months. I've lived in Bristol for 2 hours, okay? It's a duration of time. It's a period of time. While with since, we're talking about a specific point in time. So it's normally a day or a date or a very specific hour, like a specific time, okay? I've lived in Bristol since 2015. I've lived in Bristol since last week. I've lived in Bristol since Friday, okay? So it's a very specific point in time when we use since. The next one. So, wow. Have you dyed your hair? It's red now. So with this one, I'm basically talking about the present result of an action that was completed at an unspecified time in the past. So I'm saying to my friend, wow, have you dyed your hair? Okay, I don't know when my friend dyed her hair. I know it happened in the past, but I don't know when. I'm just seeing the result of that action. So I use present perfect. The next one. Have you ever been to London? So with this one, we tend to use it for experiences that people have had at some point in their lives. So the time it happens isn't specified. It's basically like asking, from the day you were born to the present day, have you been to London? That's what this is for, okay? I see some people using examples as well. So Masha, where is she? There she is. Masha says, I followed you on Instagram since you started your page. Exactly. Perfect. I followed you on Instagram since you started your page. It's been a while. Wow. So dedicated. Thank you. I have read homework. We wouldn't use it for that one. Try again, Khalid. But yes. Someone's asking about whether the use of past simple back up here is more casual. No, I wouldn't say it's more casual, guys. This is American English. This is more British English. Okay? This isn't necessarily more casual or more informal. No. This is more American English. This is more British English. All right? So we talked about this one. Have you ever been to London? Whenever we use present perfect for this reason, we tend to use ever and never. So, have you ever been to London? No, I've never been to London. Okay? I have, but that was an example. Let's have a look at the past perfect. So here, I've got the example. I had cleaned the house before she arrived. So in red, you can see I use past perfect. With past perfect, you're using had, I had, you had, he, she, it had, okay? And cleaned, I use the past participle. If you're not sure what a past participle is, some people call it the third column, okay? If that helps, that's for you. So I had cleaned the house before she arrived. She arrived, we're using the past simple. Now you can see here, I've got two actions that happened in the past. To indicate that the cleaned action, the cleaning action happened first, I use past perfect. So we use this tense to talk about two actions in the past and show that one action happened before the other. When you're talking about the earliest action, we use past perfect. After that, we use past simple. We use this tense with past simple, as I said there. Now, someone did ask, Emma, is it possible just to use past simple, and say, I cleaned the house before she arrived? Yes, you can. Okay, so to keep it simple, you can just use past simple and past simple. There's no difference in meaning between this and using the past perfect and the past simple. So then you might ask me, well, Emma, why would we use past perfect then? Well, when we're normally telling stories in English, we use the past perfect. If, as an adult, you use the past simple all the time to tell your story, it sounds a little bit childish, okay? It sounds like a child is telling the story. It sounds very simple. I cleaned the house, then she arrived, then I cooked, then I did this, then I did that, okay? It sounds very simple. So we use the past perfect in order to add a bit of, I don't know, excitement to the language, a bit of, I don't know, a bit of something to the language in order to make it a bit more interesting. That's basically what I'm saying. So if you want to use past simple and past simple, that's completely possible. However, we normally, as adults, use past perfect and past simple. Before I move on to some activities, does anyone have any questions? Okay, someone has asked, have you gone to London? So, have you gone to London and have you been to London are very different things. If you say, have you been to London? That's like asking at any time in your life, have you been? Okay? However, when we say, have you gone to London? This implies that the person is actually still in London. Okay? So there's a big difference there. Have you ever been to India? Fantastic. Have you ever been traveled to London? Now here you've got two verbs. Have you ever been traveled? We just need one participle. So you choose one or the other. Have you ever traveled to London? Have you ever been to London? You wouldn't use both. Any other questions? Exactly, as Daniel says, is to add some depth. Add a little bit of, I don't know, flavour to the language. It just doesn't make it sound as childish, you know. So is past perfect used to make more complex sentences? Not necessarily. I wouldn't say it's necessarily complex to use past perfect. The structure is fairly simple in comparison to other tenses or compared to other grammatical structures and parts of grammar. I wouldn't say it's necessarily more complex. It just makes your language sound a little bit less childish. If you want to sound childish, like one person has said here, I like being a child, fair enough if that's your cup of tea. But I mean, many people want to sound more professional. They want to sound more like an adult. They want to sound more mature. They don't want to sound like they're speaking like a child and in a very simplistic way. Okay? So people can use past perfect for that. What does ever mean? So ever, going back to this one, was it? Here we are. So ever means basically at some point in your life, at any point in your life, from the day you are born to the present. This ever refers to this. It refers to your life, basically, okay, from the day you are born. Any other questions before we move on to practice time? No, perfect. Okay, practice time. So I've got 5 sentences here, and I'd like you to tell me whether they are correct or incorrect. If they are incorrect, then tell me what's the mistake. Some of them may have more than one mistake, all right? So pay attention. What do we think? So let's start with number 1. Yesterday, I have watched the film. Is this correct? What do we think? By the way, any questions during this, I'm going to answer them at the end because now we're moving on to practice time. You should have typed faster. What do we think here? Yesterday, I've watched a film. Is this correct? What do we think? No idea? People are very quiet. How about number 2? I called my friend after I'd arrived home. Is this correct? People are saying that number 1 is incorrect. They're saying, yesterday I watched a film. Okay, interesting. Someone said yes because of yesterday. It's incorrect because of the use of yesterday, because we have a specific time. And which tense do we use when we have a specific time in the past? Think about it. People are saying it's past simple. I watched. Okay. What about the second one? Are there any mistakes here in the second one? I called my friend after I'd arrived home. So that I'd is essentially a contracted version of I had. Okay. I called my friend after I'd arrived home. Good. So number 1's incorrect. Number 2, people are saying... number 2 is mixed. People are saying it's correct and some people are saying it's incorrect. So guys, if you're saying it's incorrect, tell me what's wrong. What do we think? Yeah, I think the majority are saying it's correct. Okay, we'll have a look at the answers afterwards. Number 3, I had been married since 20 years. Are there any mistakes here? I had been married, or you could say I'd. You could contract it. I'd been married since 20 years. Is this correct? Any idea? I'd been married since 20 years. What do we think? Okay, people are saying incorrect. What do we think? If you're saying it's incorrect, tell me why you think it's incorrect. What do we think? So Donatella says, I've been married for 20 years. I've been married, or I have been married for 20 years. Okay. Number 4, did you eat breakfast this morning? Did you eat breakfast this morning? Does this sound correct? Did you eaten? Is that correct? And I'd like you, if you can, to correct it in the British way, not the American way. What do we think? Number 4. Did you eat breakfast this morning? Have you eaten? Very good, Laura. Yeah. Did you eat? You could also say, but that's more American. So we would say, have you eaten? Have you eaten breakfast this morning? And the last one. What do we think about the last one? Okay. People are mixed about this one. Have you ever been on a plane? Have you ever been on a plane? Is this correct? People are arguing and debating about number 4. I will talk about this more. I will show you the correct answer. Don't worry. People are saying, have you eaten? No, it's did you eat? Remember, guys, this is British, so use the British way if you can. Okay? Okay, people are saying that number 5 is correct. I don't think anyone has said that number 5 is incorrect, so I will take people's answers as it being correct. Let's look at the answers together. So, the first one, yesterday I watched a film. I don't say I have watched. Why? Because here we have yesterday. We have a specific time in the past. So, going back up here, specific time in the past, we usually know when the action happened. Okay? Number 2, I called my friend after I'd arrived home. This is perfect. This is fine. So we've got here our first action. I'd arrived home. I'd arrived. This happened first. If we go here, okay? So this one here would be the first action. I'd arrived. And then the second one, I called my friend. Okay? Called my friend after I arrived home. Number 3, I've been married for 30 years. So I've been married, or I have been married here, okay, because it's uncontracted. I have been married because it started in the past. Where was this one? Here. So it started 20 years ago. The action continues and it finishes here. Well, it doesn't finish, sorry. It continues into the present, okay? So I have been married, and here we're using for 20 years, because remember 4 is with a period of time. If I said, I've been married since 2002, okay, just inventing. I've been married since 2002, that would be correct because we have a specific point in time. Here we're using for because it's a period of time. Number 4, have you eaten breakfast this morning? So remember what I told you before about present perfect with American English and British English. Here, we're talking about this morning. Have you eaten breakfast? Okay, morning is still happening. While in American English, they would use the past simple. Okay, did you eat breakfast this morning? It also depends when it was said, because if morning has finished, then yes, you could say, did you eat breakfast this morning? But if morning is still happening and continuing, then present perfect would make more sense. And then number 5, have you ever been on a plane? This is correct. So I'm asking, from the day you were born until the present day, until now, have you been on a plane? All right. Let's see, what do we think? Any final questions before we finish today's live? Let me go back on. Big face cam. Here we are. Okay. So any questions, guys, before we finish? If not, then I will finish there. But any questions? If you're also watching the replay, then do feel free to put your questions down in the comments and I will reply to them if I can. But yes, what do we think? 4 depends on when the question was asked. We don't say make a question, we say ask a question. Okay, Andrea? So number 4 depends on when the question was asked. Exactly. It's what I explained, yeah? So if the morning is still happening, I can say, have you eaten breakfast this morning? Okay? Because let's imagine morning is still happening. Let's imagine the time is now. Okay? So right now it's 6:30 in the evening here in the UK. I don't know where you are in the world, but it doesn't matter. 6:30 in the evening. I'm talking about this morning. Did you eat breakfast this morning? Okay? That's then happening in the past, not related to the present. Will you conduct more classes like these about other tenses? This was so helpful. Well, I hope so. If people request them enough, then I definitely will. But most people, of course, request pronunciation. So that's what I tend to focus on. And that's also what my specialism is and what my channel is about. But I do enjoy teaching grammar from time to time, if I'm honest. And surprisingly, many people don't think I can actually teach grammar. No, sorry, many people think that I can't teach grammar. I've always been confused between the British and American methods whenever I ask my friends whether they've watched a movie. This was so helpful. Oh, okay. No, that's good, Ham. Anything else? Any questions related to today's live? Any questions that aren't related? Then, of course, I don't really want to go off topic and talk about those today. Can you use present perfect in the biography of a living person if you don't mention the date? I would need to see an example, Donatella, but yes, if the person is still living and that action either continues to the present or you're mentioning an action that happened in the past but there's no specific time attached to that sentence and that action, then yes, you can. You can use present perfect. What's the difference in meaning if I say I had been married for 20 years? Well, going back to our examples, I had cleaned and she arrived, okay? I had cleaned and she had arrived. There is no relation to the present. That sounds like your marriage has ended, okay? I had been married for 20 years before I divorced her, for example, okay? That happened in the past. There's no connection to now. Anything else related to today's lesson? I don't think so. Fantastic. One more question. Is it correct to say, have you been in a club? Or is it, have you gone? I've already talked about this, Breen. Go back and watch the live again. I did talk about the difference between have you been and have you gone. So go and check that out. I'm going to finish there because there are no more questions. And any questions there are unrelated to today's live. And I don't want to go off on different topics. I want to keep it on today's topic. So I hope that you have enjoyed this lesson today. I hope as well that you have learnt the difference between past simple, present perfect, past perfect, for and since. So plenty of things there to process. You now have the weekend to process that. I will also put today's document in the description of this video after the live. So if you're watching the replay, it will already be in the live. It will already be in the description.